Pete Williams was Mr. America as far as I'm concerned. He was the American Legion post commander, Pete Williams. Anything that was happening in town, patriotic, Pete was behind it, in front of it, in the middle of it. Great person. The Legion Post, which I still belong to, my father also was a member. He was a World War I veteran. And I remember hearing the story as a kid when two of my older brothers were in high school. There was a program at the Legion at that time where the fathers took their sons, even before they were in service, they were in high school, and introduced them. There was some unofficial membership at the time, but there was planting the seed. This will be my 14th inaugural that I've attended, everyone since LBJ. It's a great honor to see the peaceful transformation of our government, knowing that I've spent my adult life serving in our armed forces. Gives me a great sense of pride. Also gives me an opportunity to continue to serve in various ways, maybe not toting a weapon or commanding in the field, but I can serve other ways. The Legion has been a touchstone for myself and my brothers and the family and my whole hometown. And so it was no surprise when I went into service, followed my father's footsteps and my four brothers. As far as I was concerned, my prayers were answered. I was going to be able to serve too. So that was in 1953 when I went to the Air Force, think I was going to be able to fly. That didn't work out. So I figured out another solution and ended up in the Army. And says, if I can't fly, I'll jump out of them. So that worked out. I just did my job. It was a bad night at Black Rock, as I used to say. Our action in this award was the first Medal of Honor awarded in Vietnam. The award was in December of '64. The action was in July of '64. Very short time frame. We were early on in Vietnam in '64 in an advisory role, the famous label, advisory role, advise, train, and equip. It turned out that our battle was the first battle wherein the North Vietnamese Army came down and linked up with the guerrillas, the Viet Cong of the South, in an effort to overrun the U.S. Army Special Forces Training Center. And that's what we had. We were training CIDG, which is a Civilian Irregular Defense Group. I was on guard duty myself, about ready to come off guard duty. As I was checking the roster on the rattan wall in the old, what we called our mess hall, the roof blew off of that mess hall, white phosphorus round incoming. And that started it. They'd surrounded us, a force 800. How could that happen? Lousy intel on our part, great intel on their part. The day before they hit us, our patrols that came back in said something's in the wind because another village chief, another hamlet chief had been assassinated. A couple more been kidnapped. And that was a way of controlling the population, is putting the fear in everybody. And some 100 Viet Cong sympathizers in the 300 that we were training, they had standing orders to do nothing until the battle started. And then their orders was to strip off their outer garment, and they'd be wearing a brightly colored loincloth of some nature, which was the uniform of the night for the sappers that were coming in to blow holes in our perimeter wherever they could. And they were successful. They were like snakes in the grass. The casualties we took on our team were both results of sappers getting into the inner perimeter, not just the outer perimeter, but the inner perimeter. But that battlefield now is the site of a Children's Learning Center library dedicated in the memory of Pop Alamo, John Houston, and Kevin Conway, who was the Australian warrant officer serving with us, who was also killed in action. This learning center library specifically built and dedicated to serve the children of the mountain yards in the region is a monument to all those who gave their lives on that battlefield. Well, it's a great program on paper. I went to implement it. The bad guys looked at it and said, population relocation, good opportunity for us to slip a few in, as we see in today's situation around the world. And that's exactly what happened. So of the 300 that we were training, it turned out when the battle started, some 19 years later when I went back to visit, I met with former adversaries, and they revealed that over 100 of the 300 we were training were we called Viet Cong sympathizers, and turned on us immediately. As a recipient, the way we're able to continue to serve individually and collectively, and which I think is the most important thing that we've done in the 52 years that I can speak as a recipient, and that's our character development program. Our goal is to have that program instituted in every school. We started targeting at the middle school. It was successful. We grew it into the high school. A few months ago, we expanded that curriculum. Now it's down to grade elementary school, and it's being well received. Character development it sounds like a nice label, but what it is that as recipients and as individual and collectively, we looked at ways that we could serve. Everybody realized that you didn't have to look very hard. On my desk at home right now, there's at least a dozen letters from kids saying, I read about your exploits and we talked about them in school, and I got a few questions. Do you have time? And so here, 52 years after the fact, Bad Night at Black Rock, have an opportunity to pen out. My bottom line always is tell the young boys and girls, keep guiding their heart, obey your mother and father, some basic rules, and don't be afraid to perform an act of kindness unsolicited. But the friendships you develop over the years are certainly bonding and most valuable. And we get to know not just the fellow recipients, but we get to know their families, to know their children, and now here we are around, we get to know not only their children, but their grandchildren. And throughout the years, we tried to bring one of our own children, and most recently grandchildren, the last several years. An hour ago, one of my granddaughters from college texted us and says, hope you're having a good time at the inaugural. Say hi to everybody for me. Going to Mass tonight with my roommate, and we'll say prayers for you. So that in itself is a blessing to have a granddaughter remind you in a text that she's going to Mass on our campus, going to remember not just myself, but the other medal recipients and families that she's met when we brought her to various occasions. And most of the recipients, when they have an opportunity to include a family member, would take advantage of that. So that's been our extended family. It's really a beautiful situation.